All right, we're live.
Yes, sir. It looks
All
like we
right.
are live.
Hey,
Take it away,
everybody.
Santa.
Well, all right. Thank you. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Gary Con's March to Gary Con 13. I am Rick, aka Tabletop Santa, and today I'll be doing some painting of the Epic Encounters Swamp of the Hydra, which is from Steamforged Games. Oops, that's upside down. Swamp of the Hydra by Steamforged Games, and I will be painting the Hydra, which is pretty fun because I'll be throwing this against Luke himself during the event on Friday morning. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So if you have any questions or you want to fill up the chat with your favorite D&D experiences, I am all for that. One of the things I did setting up this miniature is it doesn't come pre-primed, so I took it outside and I primed it with some black Corax from Games Workshop, the Citadel line, and then I sprayed it with some Wraithbone as a Zenithal prime over top of it, which is so Wraithbone is a little bit of a lighter, well, a lot of bit lighter than the black, to give it a highlighted area. So what this is going to kind of represent is the sunlight coming down on the miniature is going to be those lighted areas. And I'm a big fan of, if I can't see it underneath because of the black, I'm not painting it because it should be shadowed out, right? So that's what I do. And I'm going to start off by just applying some Citadel contrast paint. I have a pretty large um, palette of paints I'll be using on this miniature and the others from the line. And right now I'm using the Dark Angels green to get the base coat of the Hydra's back and upper body done. I'm not really going to do this the scales or the serpentine necks in this super dark green, because what I'm going to be using for that is a shifter paint, which is by Vallejo. And the shifter paints are really cool because they have this like metallic like sheen where if you look at it one way, it's really green. You look at it another way, it might be a little more like metallic feeling, which I always feel like snakes and dragons and serpentine creatures have that kind of like reflective scale going on. So we're going to try to mimic that using the shifter paints, which I think is going to be a blast. And this isn't the only program today here on the Gary Con Gaxmore channel. Later this afternoon, we'll have Thor Kenai running the Trials of the Flaming Sword. And then after that, we'll have Jason Charles Miller doing the Search for Gaxmore with a interesting crowd of folks exploring and trying to find their way to the ancient lost city of Gaxmore. So lots of going on today, and we hope that everybody that joins us sticks around and hangs out. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's going to
And
be an interesting session there. We also, I believe, we have an episode or whatever you want to call it of Luke's Lounge tonight as well.
oh, nice. So if you're not already a member of the Discord channel, make sure you check out the Discord, and you can come participate in Luke's Lounge. And I'm guessing he will be streaming it, which will be awesome because there's always a lot of fun commentary to be seen and to add to it if you're in the chat. If you want to really get some great history on the game, uh, every Luke Lounge I've been in has definitely provided that for me. As far as like everybody has their stories of not just Gary or the but just of the game and their history in the game from when they first started playing to their most memorable moments. It's a lot of fun. And it's a great community. And speaking of community, because I think that's what Gary Con really focuses on is the community around a game that we all love and enjoy, and to give homage to the creators and not just Gary, but to everybody that's had a hand in creating and building upon the world that is Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games in general, right? So there's always room for more in our community. And we're building out that community, not just on Discord and Facebook and Twitter, but we now have a TikTok channel, which has been a lot of fun. I actually manage that for everybody, and it's wild. Hey, what's up, Careful Cantrip? How are you? Welcome to the chat. So, like I mentioned, right now I'm putting on some Citadel Contrast Dark Angels Green just over the back as the base of the back of the Hydra. And what's really neat and detailed about this miniature is that, like, you look at these spiny protrusions along the back and the neck here. They have a very much a like rock appearance, so I'll probably do those in a gray, and they're also along the back here. And then, you know, when you're out in the woods and you see the mushrooms and the fungus that grows on trees that has like that like stepped platform. I don't know what kind of mushrooms those are called, but the back legs of the Hydra kind of have that same kind of appearance on each side, which is really cool. And there's lots of like vinage and other like moss type textures on this miniature. So when you're painting yours, you know, when you go and pick a copy of it up, you can really go to town and have some fun creatively on this miniature. Because, you know, I may go and put some lighter browns and tans to represent the fungus on his leg there, and obviously highlighting the vinage that is crawling around the Hydra itself. Is going to be really fun as well. Oh, doing good. Can't complain. Loving the paint color. Thank you. I really enjoy the contrast paints by Citadel. They have like 2 different weighted pigments in it. So the heavier pigment, which is usually the darker pigment, is going to seep into the cracks and crevices of the miniature, thus giving it a immediate contrast, because the lighter pigment is going to stay on the top, and it gives more depth and character to the miniature immediately upon application. A lot of people kind of look at it as like cheating in a bottle, and I would agree, and I'm for it, because anything that'll speed up some miniature painting for me is always a good thing. During the GaryCon event, March 25th through the 28th, there is also going to be some sessions where I'll be running the different Epic Encounter box sets for attendees, and that'll be starting off on Thursday. I'll be running a session for Shrine of the Kobold Queen, followed by Lair of the Red Dragon, followed by the Village of the Goblin Chief, followed by the Hydra, Swamp of the Hydra, followed by Hall of the Orc King, and finishing up with Caverns of the Frost Giant. So I'll be running 7 sessions, because I'll be doing the live stream session as well on Thursday morning. So lots of good content to be had and fun to be had. So make sure when they open them up to sign up, if you want to let me be your DM and run you through some of these fun adventures, go sign up for them. But there's literally, I think, last tally, over 2,000 potential events, I think. So there's lots of things to get in on as part of the celebration, because that's what it really is, just a celebration of a hobby we love. And the great thing about it too is it's not just role-playing games or D&D. It's also board games and other, you know, with Tabletopia being a part of the, you know, one of the sponsors and everything. And then Vorpal Board is one of the, you know, working with everybody, and lots of fun stuff to see and do. and you can definitely be a part of it. Because the other fun thing too is there's lots of people that are running games that you're going to be like, oh man, I want to see if I can get on a game of D&D with Steven Chenault. And be like, yeah, I think he's running a couple sessions that you could potentially get into. They go fast, but you never know. There's all sorts of stuff. I'd like to also say thank you to our producer today. Thank you so much for being behind the scenes and making sure everything goes good.
My pleasure. I'll do what I can to make sure everything continues to go well. No promises, but
So what is it? What is it that you really enjoy about the whole Gary Con experience?
well, I've always, I mean, I've been playing D&D since I was a wee lad, um, which was back in, mm, let's see, hold on, I was born in, oh, numbers, math, lack of sleep. It's great.
Plus, I'm shotgunning you. You probably weren't expecting to be a part of the conversation.
Oh no, it's fine. It's literally, I'm like, man, I'm how old now? I quit keeping track a while ago. I got into it when I was just before I turned 8 years old,
Okay.
which was, I believe I got into, like, my first D&D thing I ever got was I actually found a red box set at a local thrift store, pawn shop, whatever they called it way back then.
Okay.
And I I recognized the name because of, well, around that time everybody kind of knew the name because of certain panics and other things that we just don't really bring up a whole lot anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But I the first thing that it just caught my eye was the artwork on the box cover. I mean, it's legendary for obvious reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got that, and it was all downhill from there.
I mean,
So
that red
yeah.
box was super iconic. That was, the cover art by Larry Elmore, who's one of the iconic D&D artists from, the 80s into the 90s. I mean, even today, you can still see him at different conventions, and uh, he's amazing. So I can definitely see how anybody would gravitate to the red box, regardless of where you found it.
Oh yeah. And it wasn't long after that I kind of kept up with as much as I could as, a non-working non-adult could.
Mhm.
um I kind of kept up with everything, with AD&D or second edition or whatever you want to call it, when it came out. And of course, again, full of just absolutely iconic imagery and, art. And I mean, it was just, you can't, yeah.
Yeah.
um
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
nothing sparks the imagination like amazing artwork, especially when it's in a fantasy theme. And I think that's one of the things that was really like touched on in the Art and Arcana, the Art of D&D
Hmm.
book. So it's like that right there really speaks well to the history of the game and especially the art of the game. Um, and then of course there's also the docu series or documentary called The Eye of the
Eye of the Beholder.
Beholder,
Yep.
yeah, by Cave Girl Productions, and
Yeah, I
they're
actually play D&D with them every Friday. So
oh, with Seth and his wife.
yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've ran a session for them myself.
Hmm. It's, you never know what to expect, and of course I'm all for it because I do all kinds of crazy crap too. But
Yeah, that's
so,
awesome.
yeah, so I played D&D for a while. not probably not nearly as much as a, you know, highly imaginative kid probably would have liked, but you know, got to look at the times back then. You know, it was kind of hard to find a group when pretty much the average age of groups or whatever you want to call them was, you know, college age or higher, and here's this 8, 9, 10 up till early teenager wanting to play, and not trying to start any stuff about the old original crowds, wherever, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But it was a lot of, not very many adults were entirely willing to have a kid play.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
You're definitely, as a kid, that's a young teen coming to a table, or first, how are you going to get to that table, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's that. Then most people want to play with their peer groups, right, and friends and stuff. So that bringing in someone that's younger and stuff would be a challenge. I would guess. I know my cousin, when I first played, my cousin and his friends only had me come and start playing with them. This was in 1982. They were like, "We need another person. You're here for the weekend. I guess we have to tolerate you. Come play with us." But as soon as they got to the table and started playing my Ranger,
Mm-hmm.
we were playing in the G1, 2, and 3 against the Giants module set.
Ooh.
Yeah, right.
Mm.
And 2 weeks later, I'm their dungeon master.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Because they didn't want to do the homework. They just wanted to play the game. And I was 3-4 years younger than most of them. So yeah, I mean, I probably never would have gotten that introduction had I not just happened to be staying at my cousin's house for the weekend, and they needed another player. It would have probably been years later before I actually would have got into play, because they didn't want me at their table, normally. So I can totally understand, that you might call it gatekeeping back in that era as a way of gatekeeping, but I also think it's sometimes they just don't want, they want to just play with their friends.
Well, yeah, like I didn't want to bring up the, the GK word, but
Sure.
And me being a much older person now, I mean, I get it. Like, and I have kids of my own too. Let's be honest, man. There's just times where you're just like, dude, I need adults around me. Like,
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? So Absolutely. I completely understand it. So, I always followed, D&D and TSR, and, then obviously, Wizards of the Coast, because of, Magic the Gathering, and, eventually D&D and everything and all that sort, and of course, all the other stuff. And then third edition came out, and me and like my high school buddies, man, we were in hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not anything against like the old systems or whatever, but it was that new hotness. It's like, ooh, new D&D.
Totally understood.
Throw more dice. Okay, it was great. And of course, third edition just had 500 million books that came out with it. Yeah. And I probably had about every single one of them, because I was responsible with my money. And yeah, right. And
yeah, just real quick, it looks like Zerathon is trying to change the name of the stream from Stream Test.
Yeah, I tried it too. It's not
cooperating.
No,
that's okay. I also want to let everybody know. So I did the areas I wanted to kind of base with that darker green across the back and the legs. And now I'm taking the shifter paint as my base onto the serpentine neck areas. It might be a little difficult to kind of see, but you can definitely see that it has more of a wet, slick, metallic green going on there. So we're going to put the base coat on there first, and then we're going to come back and look at doing some highlights on the back while the neck dries, and then we'll come back again and do some more highlights and detail painting on the necks as well. So yeah, but yeah, the growing up D&D has been a lot of fun for myself, and like you said, you have kids now, and yeah, you do sometimes want to just play with adults, but I'm at the point now where my kids are adults.
Yeah. Right.
I have my older son who plays now with us is he's going to be 26 this year, and he himself just got out of the Navy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then I have a 15-year-old boy who is playing as well, and they're having a great time. Now we're all in the same, they're all in the same group. I'm running them through it, and it's actually been a lot of fun, and it's a great opportunity to bond with them because, they don't live here with me. They're, my younger son is in with his sister. They live in Maryland, and then my older son lives in Michigan, and I'm here in Illinois. So, yeah.
Yeah, mine are. Well, they're pretty much at the same age now that I was when I first, kind of got introduced. Yeah, jumped in. But the thing is, 30 some odd years ago, there wasn't nearly as much, technological distraction. So,
yep.
Like I look, I know the kids, like they don't have the attention span to pay attention very much in a game right now. But they've expressed some interest because to get back to your original question, myself and a friend of mine, we started our own like RPG publishing company, and
wow.
like our first I guess flagship product, whatever you want to call it, is a series of adventures and modules and things geared towards the younger generation of gamers.
Okay.
And we had our first successful Kickstarter towards the end of 2019.
Okay.
Which made fulfilling said Kickstarter last year so much fun.
Yeah.
Because of everything going on.
Yeah.
But
the coronavirus.
Yeah. So I only got to actually partake in Gary Con probably for like the last 4 or 5 years. Like Luke could probably correct me on that one. They all blur together anymore. Years, not conventions. And it's great because one, I get to interact and mingle and game with people that have been around since before the game was the game and helped make the game what it is, and and also just people that are just legends in the field and this and that.
Oh yeah.
Not to mention all the artists that show up and everything. so for me, it's like a personal, I get to fangirl and nerd out, but I also can write it off as a business expense, so it's a win-win.
Okay.
And but it never feels like work. It just feels like, well, we're both prior military. It's you run into somebody at another duty station that you deployed with or you were stationed with years ago, and you're just like, ah. That's pretty much what it feels like. But
Yeah,
there's
I can
just
totally see
thousands
that.
of them, so
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of funny is to be totally honest with everybody here. Um, I have never been to a physical GaryCon.
No.
This is, last year was supposed to be my first one,
Mm,
but the virus got us
right.
and put us in our current situation. I was doing a thing last year called Rick Rolls America, where I was traveling around the United States at the beginning of the year, going to friendly local game stores and conventions and stuff to kind of do like a living documentary where I was filming and live streaming on location at the stores and kind of spotlighting the communities that were being built there and the stores themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And GaryCon was on my list of events to go to because I was going to go to Adepticon for 2 days and then go up to GaryCon for 3 days.
Mm.
And yeah, it just didn't work out. But it's really awesome to be able to participate in this context this year, um, and paint miniatures and show everybody some of the cool stuff that our sponsors are put into the show. Steamforge is one of the sponsors, and being able to run games and stuff virtually, which is super awesome. But I also do have a little bit of I don't want to call it an advantage, but um, insider space because for the last 6 years before I left, I worked for Diamond Comic Distributors and Alliance Game Distributors.
Mm.
I was their video production manager for Game Trade Media and Previews World and a few other aspects of the company. So I've been in the industry for a little over 6 years,
Mm.
and doing I'd go to like Gen Con and some of the other conventions, the PAXs and San Diego Comic Con and New York Comic Con, and I'd do a lot of like interviews with publishers, creators, and um, people in our space that we kind of have given the title of celebrity or have earned the title of celebrity in our space, and so making the connections to participate and do things was a little easier for me, I think, than what might be for others. But I feel blessed to having the network that I have to be able to do stuff like this and be here and talk to everybody. Steam Elements is like on fire. Thank you for following. We got some new followers. We got
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't see any other like questions. I just Zerathon kind of doing their thing,
Yeah,
hanging out
yeah,
there.
we finally got the title fixed. So
Oh, okay, that's
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
It's all part of the production process, ladies and gentlemen.
You're right on that one. Yeah, last year I was I was tentatively, I should say, scheduled throughout the entire year to go to about, I think last time I counted it up, it was supposed to be like almost 30 conventions throughout the year.
That's
It was going to be a fun convention year.
mm-hmm.
Well, that didn't happen. So,
Right. Yeah, I was really worried about a lot of the organizers that put a lot of these shows together. Because some conventions obviously do make some really good money. There's no doubt about it. Some other conventions, however, do not, and they're really fan based, and losing that income and that stuff to keep it going. I was really worried that a lot of shows are gonna not come back, but because of the digital aspect of it, like we're experiencing here with the ethereal version of Gary Con and or
mhm.
virtual version, however we want to label it. Those that have really given um, opportunities to the organizers that are taking them and doing them right, because not everybody is going to do it right, which is okay because it's a learning experience. But the ones that get it right, I think it's going to be a great addition to the physical conventions for the future, right?
No, you're absolutely right. Last year we were supposed to well, mainly Jimmy and Matt, but but a team, I guess you could say. We were supposed to do some some on-site virtual type stuff along with the physical convention, and well, obviously we all know how that went.
Yep.
There was no physical convention, but I do I do think the how the short notice success of
Mhm.
virtual GaryCon last year
Yeah.
really helped prove that, you know, virtual is it's not it's I mean, especially into last year and current um space that, society is in right now, it's a very viable option to get your gaming fix.
Oh, absolutely. I think, and like you said, the 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 quickness of in which the Gary Con staff, Luke and everybody, Turbo, everybody had to get together and with their team and everybody rallied up to make virtual GaryCon exist last year in such a short time frame was a testament to the fact that not only are gamers, you know, pretty freaking smart, but they can get real motivated real fast to make some amazing things happen. And you guys did such a great job last year with it. And I think you also was at the Fall Revel,
Autumn Revel, I believe.
Autumn Revel,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, event was also a great success, and your numbers have been really good. So I'm guessing that even when the physical event returns, there's still going to be this kind of element that will partake. People can partake if they can't actually physically make it. They're going to have opportunity to play on the virtual aspect of it. And I think that's going to be such a great boost for not just the convention but for the hobby.
Oh, absolutely.
It's super exciting.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, there's a very large VTT community. I mean, just here on Twitch alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um and like pretty much nobody will refute the fact that nothing beats playing in person at the table. Like nothing tops it. That's premier. That's
Yeah.
top tier. That's the holy grail, But one of the things that I love about uh playing on and running games on Duff's channel, Praetor's Rejects, is one. It's definitely um current current climate friendly because you're
Absolutely.
at home in front of your computer,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had the ops or the capability and privilege to meet and play D&D and other tabletop role playing games with people literally across the world that I would probably honestly never have ever had the chance had that not been an option.
Yeah. Yeah. It's another way of bringing the community closer together over distance. Uh, and I agree. I am one of those individuals that if I can play in person with my play group, I would prefer that. But I will also take anything I can get right now.
You're
Give me more
absolutely right.
game. And yeah, I mean, I'm currently running a game where we have someone from Germany, someone from Texas, someone from Michigan, myself, someone from Atlanta, and someone from Kansas City or Oklahoma City, all in the same game. And it's like Okay, you know, I'll take it. Testament to the technology.
You're
So what
absolutely
I'm
right.
doing for everybody watching right now, what I'm doing right now is I'm just going through doing some highlighting. It's not quite a dry brush as but I'm taking a much lighter green, which is the livery green by Game Color, Vallejo's Game Color line, and going over and kind of like dropping some quick highlights over the top ridges of the model, which a lot of you are going to go, well, that's dry brushing, but I'm not letting it be a total dry brush technique. Just getting those areas with, if a little bit leaches into some of the cracks, that's okay for me. And then after that, we'll go back to the neck and serpentine necks and the faces of the Hydra and take a look at what we can do there. And then we'll come back to the back and hit these scaly ridges here, the bony protrusions on the back of the knees and across the back and across here. And on the head, it's also got what looks like, could be, like tree branch looking horns. So we're going to probably put some browns on there and see how that looks. Yeah. And again, this is from the Steamforged Swamp of the Hydra Epic Encounters box, which is a 5e compatible game in a box. This one comes with the Hydra miniature that you see here, which is a pretty large miniature, and a play mat, a guidebook for the encounter, and it has like 2 or 3 different like leveling options. So if you want to go at it with like 7th to 10th level characters or 11th to 15th and then 15th and higher. So it gives you a pretty cool scaled encounter base for it. And then a bunch of tokens to represent some goblins. But what's really nice is the swamp or the village of the goblin. What is it called here? I just want to make sure I get it right. The village of the goblin chief. The miniatures that are in there of the goblins can be used obviously in the Hydra box or, in conjunction with, if you have them both, they're very compatible so that you don't have to use the tokens if you don't want to. You can actually use the amazing miniatures that are provided. So, yeah. Okay. I'm kind of feeling good about what I've got so far on the Hydra's back and legs here. So then we will go and, like I said, take a look at I got to do the tail here. Oh, hey, what's up, Mech45? How are you? I like how the green is coming out. Thank you so much, Sir Monstein. Sir Monstein. Yeah, that's a cool name. Sir Monstein. And for everybody watching, it looks like we got right around 22 people that we know is watching. There might be some people that aren't like letting us know because how Twitch kind of plays with the numbers sometimes. Thanks for joining us today. We do appreciate you participating and watching our content here at the Gary Con's March to Gary Con 13 event, where every Saturday leading up to the actual convention, there will be some streams going on, starting off with, as you see now, me painting miniatures, and then there'll be some D&D RPG content in the afternoons into the evening. And so tonight after this will be Thor Kenai with the Trials of the Flaming Sword and his crew, and then Search for Gaxmar with Jason Charles Miller and his amazing crew. One of the individuals on his crew that I'm really like a fan of is Vivid Vitka. Obviously follow her on TikTok and social media and stuff, and her costumes she put together are just ridiculously good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take a look now at. I'll put this down so you guys can see it on the back there. it looks pretty all right, I think, coming along. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put those browns on there, the base browns, for the bony protrusions that kind of look like they could be like wood or rock. So I'm going to put a base brown, and then I'm going to do some, then I will dry brush those with some grays to give it more of a rock look. So I'm using the Vallejo Model Colors Saddle Brown for the base. And I was going to say too, as far as like Jason Charles Miller, if you all don't follow his Twitch channel, you are missing out. Every Thursday night, I think it's Thursday nights, yeah, he gets on and he does like all request Thursday, where people can request him to sing cover songs and some of his own original works. Because if you don't know, he's an amazing guitarist and vocalist. And I get on there and watch him sing. It's literally, his voice is like Stapleton level awesome to me.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Right? And the fact that he does all that and he games and he's just, a great dungeon master and a great player it's it just goes to show that our community and gaming is not just for everybody, but there is a little bit of everybody or every genre or every walk of life that plays in our space. And it's like, that's so freaking cool to see it. Again, like we were saying before, back in the 80s, it was looked on differently. And some people still have that same kind of opinion of not just D&D, but role-playing in general, just gaming. And I'm a big fan of like promoting gaming. And when I am out doing my promotions or talking to families and stuff about games, there's those individuals that are going to say stuff like, well, I'm not a gamer, or I don't game, or I'm not into any of that stuff. And I'm like, and that's fine, because not everybody, as they become adults, continue to play, but everything we really learn is done through gamification, such as, you learn your ABCs in a sing-song patty cake sort of way. You play patty cake to help, your kids with, hand-eye coordination and, again, word associations and all that stuff. So we're always playing games with our kids in some form or fashion. And as adults, we still play games. It's just maybe a little different, like, I sometimes get people that are like really into doing mechanics and working on cars and trucks and stuff. And they're like, well, I'm not into that stuff. And I'll ask them, well, what are you into? And they're like, well, I'm into, doing mechanics. And I go, well, what do you collect? Well, I collect snap-on tools. And I'm like, sweet. Did you know there's a game where you can actually play that you are collecting snap-on tools as the mechanic of the game? And they're like, what? So that's another really fun aspect of gaming, is there is a game for everyone, and it's just a matter of getting them to know that it exists. And how do we go about doing that, right? And because I want everybody at the table playing something, because what a great way to disconnect from what might be bothering you, or what may be a way to open up conversations. I think that's one of the great things of role playing, is that sometimes we can open up conversation in our role playing game that might help us work through something that is bothering us in the real world. And we never even realized that we just had a breakthrough, or we just had that conversation, and it made more sense to what was going on in our real lives and how to deal with certain things. I mean, there's so many great aspects of our hobby that people are just now starting to see, and I love it.
Yeah, Sir Monstein brought up a very good point there in chat.
What is it? More people that play games, the more people you get to play games with, and more minds to make great games. That is, for lack of a better word, facts. Absolutely. They say that, the United States is a melting pot, right? And, in some regards, that's, true. But I always look at it like we're a salad. I know this is going to sound weird, but when you do a melting pot, you melt down the original thing, right? And to make something new. But with a salad, everybody and everything maintains their diversity, but they're all together. And because of that diversity, it's much more colorful and beautiful on your plate, right? And you maintain your individuality, but your individuality adds to the salad, and it becomes a thing where you can have a different mind, a different culture, a different everything, but you bring it all together in gaming, you're going to get amazing games of some things you probably never would have thought of on your own. But when we get everybody together, some truly, truly great things pop out. And I'm excited for the future of gaming right now. It's freaking awesome. I still like that name too, Sir Malmsteen. It's so good. All right, so like I said, I'm putting some browns on the protrusions and the like horns here. Obviously, these horns on the head look very much like a like tree branches, and so I'm gonna probably put some ashen gray, not to make it look stone, just to make it look aged, like how aged wood can have some, ash and gray effect to it once we get the bases on here and they dry out. And then also on the bottom, on the base itself, there is this large log. So I'm going to definitely put some brown on that and base it out here in just a second as well. And anybody in the chat, if you have any questions or want to, prompt conversation, please ask. I can talk forever, but sometimes I'll start rambling, and I don't mean to. I don't mean to get to rambling, but it does happen. And you may have seen me on such programs as Painting Happy Little Minis. If y'all have ever watched anything over on the Game Trade Media channel, which is the Alliance Game Distributors media channel, I launched and started a program that still exists called Painting Happy Little Minis. We do it. Previously, we did it for twice a week for about an hour. We did that for about 3 years, and then that's kind of when I left. But they still do it on Thursdays with Dave Taylor and Gretchen Settle, and you can go watch them paint miniatures from upcoming games and product coming out to your local game store. So that's always fun. But as a reminder, what we are painting right now is the Hydra from Steamforged Games. I'm going to actually pick up the box here and show it again. It is the Swamp of the Hydra. It is a 5e compatible box set that comes with a lot of cool stuff by Steamforged Games. You can go to steamforged.com and check it out. That's what it looks like on the back of the box. Super, super slick. And the other cool thing is all the miniatures that come in the Epic Encounter boxes are already put together. So, and they're color coded. So the Kobold, Lair of the Kobold Queen, and the Red Dragon, or the Shrine of the Kobold Queen and the Lair of the Red Dragon box sets, all those miniatures are red. Then when you get the Goblin, the Village of the Goblin Chief, and the Swamp of the Hydra, all the miniatures are green. And then the what is the other one? The Orc, Hall of the Orc King, and the Caverns of the Frost Giant, all of those miniatures are like a frost blue color. So you can take them right out of the box and play them, which is great. But of course, we got to paint our miniatures, right? It's only the right thing to do. While this is kind of drying, I want the head and stuff to dry. I want to show you some of the other miniatures that are in the Village of the Goblin. And this is, they've got like Dark Frog Riders, Goblin Riders that are really slick looking. The dark frogs have like little tree trunk saddles and some like tree bark armor. And that box comes with 4 of those and a bunch of miniatures. There's over like, I want to say in total, amongst the 6 box sets so far, there's probably close to 70 miniatures. Here's another one that is, if you look at the big one here, it's like a flail snail, but it's like a rock slinger snail. So it has other tendrils and it has rocks in its tendrils that it'll like smash you with or throw at you. And it has, the big shell on its back. And this is, a little swamp stone slinger snail. I'm not sure exactly what they called it, because one of the other cool things about the box sets is all the monsters are kind of like original, if you want, or hybrided. I don't know if that's even a word. They're like hybrid miniatures or characters. Thank you so much, Luke. I do try to keep that Bob Ross vibe going. The miniatures, though we know they're goblins, we know they're orcs, we know they're kobolds, but they're like branded, like firebrand kobolds, and they have like special abilities over what a normal kobold in the monster manual might have. And then there's like a firebrand kobold champion, and then there's the kobold queen who literally has like wings, like a little dragon wings. The orcs are from the north, so they're from the cold land, so they have special like resistances to cold. And the orc box set comes with 4 orc warriors riding polar bears, and which I think are really cool. And like I said, the goblins have the orcs or the goblins riding the dart frogs. I'm calling them dart frogs because I think that's kind of like the color scheme I'm going to go, because most dart frogs are very colorful. And in the kobold box, you have some riding like fireworms, right, or fire salamanders. So it's like so many cool little miniatures, and so much diversity in the miniatures, that once you've played the scenarios, you can use them for so much more afterwards, right? Which is, I think, one of the greater things of our hobby too, is we can take and use everything everywhere, because that's what we do. You know what? Now I'm going to go ahead and put the browns on the tree log, or the log that's underneath the Hydra, and also on the mushroomy leg plates, because they really look like I said, they really look like mushrooms. Those really hard ones that are on the sides of trees that like stack up. So we're going to give those some attention as well. Okay. So the log, and like for me, when I put down base coats, so all these base coats, I am not like a stay in the line painter in the beginning, because that's what highlighting and detail is about. Is that's when you go back and you can make those fine line changes to your miniature. Is after you're done with your bases, yeah, then you can go back and be like, all right, where did I really go outside the lines? And the great thing with paint is you can paint over your paint. But I know a lot of folks are like, no, I got to do it perfect with every stroke of the brush. And you don't have to, because the big thing is, if you're not painting competitively, and this is one of the things I try to tell people that are like curious of the hobby of painting miniatures, but haven't like jumped into the space yet because of, anxieties or whatever, is you don't have to be perfect. And your first miniature you paint is never going to be perfect. Your 10th miniature you paint isn't going to be perfect. But the thing is, once you are done, it's yours. You did it. And then as you continue to paint, you'll get better. And also, I paint for tabletop play, and most of the time, those miniatures are going to get touched, used, moved around, especially like minion miniatures like orcs and goblins and kobolds. Granted, like the Hydra here probably isn't going to see a lot of continued use on my table, but if someone wants to be ran through that encounter, it's going to get pulled out, and it's only going to be seen at about 3 feet away. So if it looks great at 3 feet, that's a great miniature. That's just my logic. But I have sat next to and painted with some folks that are professional, like true, like I'm a professional painter in some regards, but these folks are like the competitive level painters, you know, that are just like, it almost looks like you know, a photo of someone that's been in cosplay, like a real person or a real creature because of the lifelike paint work that they do. You know, um, Dave Taylor, who is the host of Painting Happy Little Minis now, is one of those individuals. You know, that he's painted over, I want to say 10,000 miniatures over his life and his career of painting. And when you're doing stuff like that, yeah, your paints are going to be like miraculous. Like you put a drop of paint on a miniature and poof, it's like amazing. All right. But that's not for everybody, you know, but everybody can paint. It's very calming. I find it to be one of those times during my day when I can sit down and when I paint and I'm not talking constantly, I find myself, you know, I don't really dwell on the world or anything that might be troubling me. I'm just kind of focused on, you know, how am I going to apply the paint here, and you know, what am I going to do there, and how, you know, how do I want to like express my art on that miniature. So I have those kind of thoughts, and it's very like calming and peaceful, and I am a big fan of that. At least at least an hour a day I try to paint a miniature or work on a miniature because it gives me that breakaway from, you know, whatever might be, you know, on my mind, right? So for those people that find it to fit that category for them, get your brush, get to painting. Um, Sir Monstein says, I've been painting for over 20 years and yet to get anything that I call close to perfect. Exactly. But you have fun painting every miniature you paint, I have no doubt. Um, and that's what it's all about. I don't have a perfect miniature that I've ever painted, but I have some really good ones that I really enjoy and that I really like putting on the table to put fear into my players. I have it's out of arm's reach right now, but I have my God of Death avatar is a miniature that is from the board game Hate by Kumini or Simon, and that miniature is one of my favorites, and the one I did for my God of Death or God of War avatar as well. So there's some really good ones that I've painted, but are they perfect? Nah. Am I proud of them though? Heck yes. And they look good at 3 feet away. I also like paint and takes. I think that's one of the fun things at a lot of conventions. I don't know if at the physical Gary Cons, if you can chime in there on that one, is do they do like paint and takes or have painting lessons and classes and stuff at the show when it's a live event or physical event?
Myself personally, I'm not 100% sure. I know there were several vendors where you could um, get your event ticket, whatever you want to call it, and um, do you could like actually resin cast your own terrain and miniatures and all that stuff. Like they're at the convention and everything, and I know I've seen with my own eyes people and vendors and things painting stuff, but as far as like actual like painting classes or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak for certain on that. I know I personally never did that at GaryCon, but I was also pretty much playing games
I mean, that
4 days
makes sense.
straight. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that makes total sense though. Uh, those are one of the things. Like when I go to a convention, I try to find out if there is a paint and tape or a painting competition or whatever, because I won't. I won't necessarily participate in the competitions, but I'll go play. I'll go paint in a paint and tape with a bunch of people. And um, the only competition I like painting in for like where I am actually competing against others are speed paints, where you get everybody gets the same miniature and you have an hour and a half to paint it, and then they get judged after that. I really like those events just because everybody's really on a really even keel in regards to what they're going to be able to get done in an hour and a half, whereas most painting competitions at shows are where people bring a miniature that they've painted to enter into a category and they've had months to work on it. So it's going to be the best as a competitive painter that they could do. And those are the ones that when you see them, you're just like, oh my God, so good. All right. I feel pretty good about the browns on here now. Just gonna always one of the things I tend to do is after I feel comfortable with a color, I do kind of go around and turn the miniature, get it into some more light, just to make sure that there aren't any like white popping out in those spaces where I might have missed. So I definitely do another once around on the miniature to hit those spots. It'd be interesting to see if I think Luke has painted or does paint in some capacity. I'd like to see a miniature that he's actually put paint and brush to. So, or at least get him at a table to paint one time. Maybe we can talk him into joining us for the next episode next week. Because if I recall, Luke has all these box sets as well, and probably has not painted them yet.
I will leave those negotiations up to you, sir.
I know he's busy. I know everybody's busy right now with the workups and prep to the show, and I feel like he's got his drill weekend. I think is before the show as well, so he's got a lot going on. So I don't feel overly like inclined to really press it.
Yeah, he's definitely a busy man.
Yeah. I just like to throw it out there as like, again, shotgun that information out. You're like, hey, I know you got these. All right. Get under the underbelly here. So like I said before, is when I primed this, I primed it black, and then I did an over prime with gray sear from Citadel. Priming, the priming product, but I still will brush this dark green underneath as well, because even though it should be shadowed and you don't necessarily need to see paint on all of that, it doesn't hurt to have that base going on under there as well if you can get it in there. But there's also going to be spots on the miniature that you just really can't get to, and because it's black primer and it's under the belly and it's shadowed out, it's not a big deal. All right, getting under here. You know who's another really good painter is Satine Phoenix. Is a really good miniature painter. She was at Origins a couple years ago, and the guys from Realmsmith, Jason Acevedo and his team, they do a lot of stuff with Whiz Kids, and they were doing some painting lessons, and every session had a different like special guest to come paint. And I was I was one, and then Satine was one, and Satine had gone before me, and we were all painting the Beholder. Like everybody got to paint the WizKids Beholder that weekend, and hers was like phenomenal and super bright and colorful. I was like, dang, it was like cotton candy, a Beholder that looked like it was a floating ball of cotton candy. Mine I actually did with green and gave it like camouflage stripes, um, like tiger stripes on it and stuff. It looked pretty cool. I was like, oh, okay, this could be a warrior cast of beholders. Okay, someone's message got deleted. Uh-oh.
Yeah, it was one of those spam messages.
Yeah. All right. So as I'm looking at this now, you guys can let me know what your thoughts are. I'm going to lift this camera up a little bit here. But if you look at the Hydra, how I've got it kind of going right now, you can see the back, you can see the browns and the wood stuff. How does that look on camera to you all? That serpentine greenish metallic. Do you think it's too metallic? Do I need to dull that up? I kind of feel like I do, but it's really a bigger contrast from the back and how I envision it like emerging up out of like the swamp is it's kind of burrowed itself. It keeps its heads under the water, under the muck. But the overgrowth that occurs on the Hydra as it lives in the swamp would give it this effect. Should the heads be that kind of serpentine, more serpentine than the like plant growthy look that gave the rest of it? Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna ink it, Stephen. I'm definitely gonna ink it. Doesn't look scary at all from Low Level Adventure. So Low Level Adventure in the chat is one of the players in the Stormcrest campaign I run. It's just fun. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna ink it. I might even put like a matte gloss on it at the end to kind of, which would actually reduce that shine a little bit. But we're not done, so we'll keep pressing to see how we can keep it looking good. I'm gonna take some Vallejo color. Now I'm gonna use some Verde or Sick Green, which is not contrast paint, as I've already used for the main base, but I'm gonna use this now to really go across and highlight like the vinage on the back, and there's some vines across the neck of the some of the serpentine heads, right? So we're gonna hit that with a better green to pop it off, and it's good. I think that might actually give a good contrast to the shine when this is applied. So let's find out. What's the last miniature you painted?
Oh boy. Like finished painting?
Or what's a work in progress? Let's go with that.
Oh man, I don't think we got enough time for that. I have a ton of miniatures that just are in the pile of things to get painted. As much as I like every now and then to paint miniatures, I don't get to do it nearly as much as I would like.
Okay.
But I also like to make my own terrain and things.
Nice.
I take a lot of inspiration, if you will, from a lot of the YouTube channels you find. Like Black Magic Craft is definitely one of them. making everything out of dollar store foam boards and XPS foam and things like that. And I'm like, man,
Mm,
that's accessible to anybody that can go to a store. So I I kind of do that. And um, the last thing I think I actually painted to completion miniature wise, I think was one of the Nolzur's beholders.
nice. Do you watch like I'm trying to think of what is his name? Mel Bowes, the he's a guy over in the UK who's a the terrain tutor is his handle.
Yes, I've watched a couple of his videos. Yeah.
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 He just came out with a book with Dave Taylor called Terrain Essentials, which is like a how to build different things using different really inexpensive materials that are, like you said, kind of available almost anywhere. Which I thought was a really cool idea to put out on the market for people to see is that you can literally, like you said, you can go to the dollar store and you can get stuff to build some terrain, and it's awesome. What's some non-scratch terrain that you enjoy or would like to have in your repertoire of terrain to throw on the table?
Non built from scratch terrain.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, oh man. That's a long list. All of it.
Okay. I mean, that's a great answer.
Yeah, all of it. I know I'm definitely if I'm definitely excited to see the new Yawning Portal set that's coming out.
Oh yeah, from WizKids.
Yeah, because I'm
Yeah, I think
like,
I
oh,
saw it at Gamma last year. It's freaking monstrous.
yeah, exactly. It's huge. It's an iconic thing,
Hmm.
and I'm currently running a group of people that are I'll say newer ish to D&D. Like they got into it with fifth edition
Hmm.
through the Yawning Portal right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And after after the first couple of sessions, they were like, "Man, these older adventures are a lot harder than you think." And
They're
I'm like, "Oh
brutal.
man, you have no idea. You're only in the third edition ones right now."
Hmm. They were brutal. They were fun.
Yeah,
Uh,
like they just finished the Hidden Shrine of Tomoe-chan.
that's a good one. I mean, it's hard to pronounce, but so good.
I know it's so good. And when they finally finished it, after session was over and we are just kind of sitting there chit chatting, they were like, "Oh my god,
Hmm.
that is brutal." And I go, "Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It sure
that's
is."
cool. That is super cool. I know that when, like I mentioned, my first module that I ever played in was G1, 2, and 3, and then the A series, and then the D series were right behind them. Those first AD&D modules were awesome. They were so tough. The second edition modules that came out were amazing. Third edition had some really good stuff, and then now fifth edition. I'm really digging the campaign guides, like the Icewind Dale one and everything. So the metamorphosis of change throughout the years has been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, we see here, Sir Monstein says trial and error painting is tons of fun. I agree. Um, the Xanathar from Gale Force 9, it was a fun miniature to paint. Yeah, that one is pretty cool. I like how the eye stalks are kind of like on like one side of that miniature, like it's like moving
Mm-hmm.
sideways. Terrain is a model painting I need to get into more, as it is very important for any model gamer or game. I agree. Yeah, having terrain on the table just increases your immersion in a game tenfold. Their last finished model for me was Poxwalkers from Games Workshop. Nice, all hail Nurgle, and that is a cool model and one I keep thinking I should buy it. You should absolutely buy it. And on that note, for everybody watching, this is the Hydra from the Epic Encounters Swamp of the Hydra box set, a 5e compatible game in a box by Steamforged Games. It is available, I believe it is available now at your friendly local game store or online, wherever you can find Steamforged Games. And you should get it. It is pretty slick.
Yeah, I think because you mentioned a lot of the older modules and adventures. I believe the first, I hate to say, official content, but the first, I guess, actual printed TSR D&D adventure I remember playing as a player through when I was wee young was, and I actually still have that exact booklet, whatever you want to call it, over here on my shelf, was White Plume Mountain.
And, so good.
And boy, the number of times I died.
I have no doubt. That is such a good module.
It really is.
Did you ever play in any of the old RPGA modules from the 90s, like the Living City, Raven's Bluff, the Living City stuff, or any of the third edition Living Greyhawk content?
Yes, I did. And like even nowadays, like if we just have a session where it's like in between the adventures in the Yawning Portal, for example, we'll have a couple of sessions of just doing like random side quest type things or whatever, and or just like straight up RP sessions. Like Lord Gasumba will can vouch for this too. It's like I'll throw, and mainly because I know my players won't know what I'm talking about, but I'll throw like little Easter eggs into things from like Greyhawk and Planescape and all these other fantastic game settings and things, and I can always tell when somebody is like an old school D&D nerd like me in the chat or whatever, because they'll be like, hey, I caught that, and I'm like, all right.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed going to conventions back then, and that, Adventure League still scratches that itch. But I don't know what it was about the Living City, the Ravens Bluff content that I really enjoyed. If it was the continuity that you could get from it, much like in the Living Greyhawk stuff, you got a little more continuity, and the events that you played in could affect future module content, which I thought was really cool. And I think that's one thing I would like to. I don't really feel like the current Adventure League does that. Which is not a hit on them by any means, because they're doing some really fun stuff and everything. But I would like to see a module series like the old RPGA Living Cities stuff to where, like, if you play in this event and all the DMs send in their report, the next year's events will be modified to kind of show what the average outcome was. Like if everybody was successful in doing a certain thing, but they missed something, that something they missed could be like the fire that is starting the fire for the next year's events. Like if you didn't find a certain amulet or whatever, and that amulet turns out to be a conduit to bringing in some sort of bigger evil from another plane or whatever, those are the kind of modules I really liked.
Right.
And it made me want to go to more conventions, because like sometimes you could only play at Gen Con a certain module, right? Sorry, this is kind of, But so you'd want to go to Gen Con to play in it, and then you want to go to Origins or I would guess Gary Con probably had some. They didn't have them back then because it wasn't around then. But there was I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that had some big RPGA events to them. But even if it were just games days, you would have like, this is exclusive only to this games day, and so you're like, yeah, I got to go to that one because I want to play in it because it follows the same story or whatever that I just played in. And I have the treasure chit token or whatever for the that is going to be needed for that new module that's just come out.
Right.
All that fun stuff. Which I think is kind of cool too, because right now for this evening, when you got Jason Charles Miller and his band of wayward adventurers looking for the lost city of Gaxmore in the search for Gaxmore, right? That kind of gives me that vibe, right? They're going to be running in a series of events that is going to lead them to an event that's going to be happening at GaryCon. So,
right. Yeah, the like con specific or just even the con convention, big events for the organized play stuff.
mm-hmm.
I did that years ago with another game, and I mean, I really liked it. I got to play with a lot of people and meet a lot of new people. A lot of them, like, I haven't seen them or gamed with them in, oh boy, probably at least 6 or more years now. But we still keep in touch, like, on social media and like Discord chats and things like that. And the thing that got me on it all though was I literally just burned myself out hardcore.
Okay.
Like at one point in time, I was probably, and with organized play, it's a lot more. I don't want to say the rules are strict, but like you've got things that you have to follow, type deal. I was probably running anywhere between 4 to 6 at least sessions every week.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, I had so many like GM points that it was but I enjoyed it, but it just I burnt myself out.
No, I can see that. Do you remember the old PGA cards that you would get as you got points? You would go from being like a player to or like a grandmaster, dungeon master.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a grandmaster card because I lived in Hawaii or stationed in Hawaii for a number of years, and I ran the RPGA group out there called Dedicated Oahu Gamer Society for a couple of years. And we would run, we'd have games days once a month at the community center on base or in base housing. And we'd do, 2 or 3 RPGA sanctioned modules every time. So it was awesome. And it really racked up them points quick.
Yeah. Vampiric Touch ENT.
That is the channel. That's the channel that we run my game on.
Oh, very nice.
Thank you for following either Wacky or Low Level, whoever is running it right now.
Yes, we thank everyone for all of the follows and views.
Heck yeah. And just as a reminder, if you are on the social medias and you aren't following Gary Con on all of them, at least follow him on the one that you find to be the one you like to use. So if you're on Twitter, follow us on Twitter. If you're on Facebook, follow us on Facebook. If you're on Pinterest, I don't know if we have a Pinterest, but Instagram and now TikTok. We're about to break 1,000 followers. We're a little over 700. followers on TikTok, and if when we break 1,000, we can do live streams on that platform to engage with our community there and get you on our Discord channel. So go follow us on Discord because that's where some really fun community stuff is going on right now. So don't miss out by not adapting to the new technologies, I guess I could say.
Good way to put it.
All right. I'm looking at what we got going on here. What did Steven say? Like most Guild Force 9 minis, it's challenging to assemble, but it is fun to sculpt to paint. Yeah, the GF9 sculpts are a little challenging. You almost always have to use green stuff on them because the seams don't always line up on everything. But once you get them together and they're ready to be painted, they are really nice looking models, and they look good once they're all said and done. So so what's funny is on Sundays, so tomorrow, I have a game that I play, and three Gale Force 9 employees are in that game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. One's a former employee. Blair, he was the guy that was like at every one of their conventions and kind of ran the booth and was their operations guy for a while. But now he's moved on, but he's still in the game. And then we've got two others that are part of the sales team in that game. Then the other couple players are all prior Games Workshop employees. It's funny how small the community is when you think about it. And you got all these folks that when you start talking to them and they're like, oh, where do you work? Oh, I work for this, or I used to work for either Games Workshop, Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
It's a very small community in that sense. And it's super funny when people start like dropping where they're from.
Oh yeah. I know my first Gary Con, of course, I was probably, fangirling out 99% of the time.
Sure.
Because Larry, well, for one, like the old D&D art and stuff is what got me into art in general way back in the day. But like Jeff Easley is from my hometown and Larry Elmore is like an hour and a half away from me.
Yeah, Larry's right there in Kentucky, so you must be down that way, huh?
Yep, Nicholsville, Kentucky.
All right. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Jeff. I mean, I see Gary, or I'm sorry, I see Larry often because he's had a lot of the shows I go to throughout the year. So like he'll be at Dragon Con and Gen Con and stuff. So usually I would see him at those shows, and we would sit and talk. I wrote a book a couple years ago called The Overstreet Guide to Collecting Tabletop Games. Me and my friend Carrie Wood put it all together. It's not a price guide like the Overstreet is. Overstreet is a company that makes the Overstreet price guide for comic books, right? But what we put together was just like a little bit of a history of tabletop gaming and what makes certain things in the space collectible and where you can go and find certain things, in that space that where you might not normally look for finding collectible games in the board game space. And one of the things was we talked about how art influences collectability. And we got Larry to do an interview for us, which was so, it was so cool. So much fun.
Yeah. I think me personally, aside from, all the fangirl type moments and everything, one of my favorite things about going to all these conventions, like even if you can only manage to go to one a year, or multiple a year. If you get a chance, by all means do it. Because like just the amount of people that I've met and got to know and become friends with and everything is it makes it all worth it, really. Like for example, one of them is Mr. Stephen Radding McFarland. Like my first Gary Con, met up with him,
Yeah.
and we keep in touch still to this day. And awesome guy,
Yeah.
very talented writer, and I just a cool dude. And
Yeah. It's
I
funny.
look forward to when we can all hang out in person again.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny, as he mentions, I've worked for both WotC and Paizo. Now I'm a happy freelancer.
Yeah, yeah.
Heck yeah. I actually feel like Steven and I have met before. I don't know, because I while I was at Diamond and Alliance, I did a lot of work with Paizo, with Cosmo and Eric and um, Pierce and all those cats. So I'm wondering if we've met before. I kind of feel like we have. Now I'm just going through and like I'm adding some gray spots on some of this to give it this stony look on these like protrusions here on the spine and on the back of the neck. Just kind of giving it a little extra color and pop because it could come across as like either stone, dirty mucked up stone protrusions, or it could just be um, dried up wood for the camouflage appearance. So,
Well, since we've got about 25 minutes left of
okay,
the stream, I'll I'll poke the bear here and get you talking for a while.
all right,
Uh, kind of a two-parter question. One,
sure,
what got you into miniature painting?
okay.
And two, what advice would you have for people looking to start up the hobby? I can personally say my probably one and only best piece of advice on that would be just do it.
I mean, that is the bottom line bit of advice. But for someone that has got some apprehensions, and because a lot of people, like I said earlier, want to make sure there's an expectation that it's got to be perfect the first time. So to mitigate that expectation, to be like, no, this is your first miniature. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be an experience. It's going to be fun. Is so. First off, I would recommend don't go out and buy the expensive or the model or the hobby priced paints like Citadel or Vallejo or Army Painter or P3 or the Reaper Bones paints. Go to like Walmart, get some of the apple barrel or the acrylics for like 50 cents a bottle or whatever. Get some of those paints and don't buy an amazing miniature for your first paint either. You could literally go and buy a bag of green army men and start just testing out technique on those figurines. Or because WizKids is such an inexpensive buy-in for miniatures, get a couple miniatures that are of different size. Get a pack of character miniatures for $5. Get a pack of a little bit bigger monster miniature, and then maybe get a larger one and play with them, knowing that the investment isn't in the miniature to be played with; it's in the investment to learn how to paint miniatures. So those are some options on how to get into the hobby. And again, you don't need to even get the good brushes that are available out there. You can just get some brushes from Michael's and start there. What got me into the hobby of painting miniatures was in 1986. I want to say it was 86. No, 87. I painted my first miniature. It was a Ralpartha Dwarven Cleric miniature, which what is it? Is it Ironwind or Ironwood? Now holds all the licenses for the Ralpartha casts.
Iron Wind Metals.
Ironwind Metals. So two, well, not last year, but the year before, 29, was it? Yeah, 2019. At Origins, I went to a party, like an industry party that had Ironwind was there with Turbo and the guys from Catalyst Game Labs and a few others, and they had a bunch of loose miniatures on the dining table. And I sat down and they're like, yeah, go ahead, look through them, and take a couple or whatever. And they had the miniature of the Dwarven Cleric that I had painted my very first miniature. I got a little emotional because it was like, I never thought I'd be able to find it again, and stuff. So I took it. I was like, I'm taking this one, and I repainted it. And back then in the 80s, we didn't have all these beautiful, paints that we can use now. I used tester paint, the tester model paint, and that which stinks like high heaven when you open it up, and you're pretty much like incapacitated by the time you finish a miniature from the odor. And it definitely wasn't a great painted miniature, but it was my first. And the other great thing about being in the military, because right out of high school, I joined the military and traveled all over the world. And everywhere you go, there's going to be a hobby store. So I could always find, something in my hobby wherever I was at, and meet more people in the community. And because painting has become what it is today, it's such a fun hobby, much like just playing the game. You can find more people that you can sit with and do like paint parties and just hang out and have fun doing it and share your love of the hobby and share your techniques as you're learning them. And again, because of technology, oh my God, all these amazing painters out there that are like teaching classes on like object source lighting and, non-metallic metals where they're taking non-metallic paints and making it look like it's metal on the miniature. It's like, oh my God, how are they doing this stuff? Right. So that's how I got to it. That's why I'm still a huge fan, is because it's the best.
You're right. And to touch on one point of what you said, like especially nowadays, back in the day, like, okay, my very first miniature that I actually got around to painting, because I had quite a few of the old, actual lead miniatures and the old Ralpartha sets and everything, but the first one I actually ever got around to painting was the pewter miniature for third edition's Krusk the Half-Orc Barbarian.
Oh, nice.
I still have it.
Okay.
It looks like crap. But again, this was like 21 something years ago. It spent a lot of time in dice bags getting beat up and just years and everything. But I keep it how it is because, one, nostalgia factor,
of course,
and two, it's like, so anytime I paint something I get flustered or aggravated, I can look at that one and go, at least it looks better than that.
Right.
Yeah. So, but nowadays it's, because back then it was, you had the Ironwind metals, you had the Ralpartha stuff, you had those, but like nowadays you have, like, especially with the advent of 3D printers.
Yep.
Man, whatever kind of miniature, terrain, sculpt, whatever you can probably imagine, it's probably out there for you to find if you want it.
Oh yeah.
It's literally just grab something you like that you want to paint, and get a brush, get some paint, throw some paint on it.
Absolutely, the 3D printer technology, and with all the digital sculptors using CAD or ZBrush or whatever they're using to model their miniatures for printing is ridiculous. And yeah, there's such a wide, you got Reaper Bones, you got Steamforged with all the miniatures they're making, Seamon with all the miniatures they make, with like Massive Darkness, WizKids, obviously, because they've got freaking tons, and with them holding the license for the majority of the licensed D&D stuff, you're going to get all the monsters and stuff you want to see. And then you got, like you said, the 3D printer technology with Hero Forge or whoever you're going to get. There's no reason not to be able to find a miniature that looks exactly how you want your character. It's ridiculous, and I love it. All right, so we're putting some highlights on like the horns there, the branched horns, and I think we've got about 15 minutes. Well, not even that, because we're gonna do our shout outs and call outs here in a minute, and then break so that you guys can get ready for the next. Someone else is doing the production for the next group, right? Is that like right after this?
I'm not 100% sure on that. The schedule is so many things. That is a good question. I need to check that out. I know we pretty much have so many different programs going on today and tonight. Yeah, just my best advice is hop into Discord, and all the announcements and everything will pop up in there, or keep an eye out here on the channel.
So for everybody that's watching, again, I just want to reiterate, we appreciate you joining us today as part of the Road to GaryCon 13, the ethereal event that it will be. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, go to GaryCon.com and check it out. Get your tickets. Today is the last day up until I think it's almost midnight tonight is when they're going to close out the. If you want to be a GM and submit an event, you got to get in today. If you don't, it's going to be like pulling teeth out of a Tarrasque to get in there. So if that is something that you were thinking about doing, you need to go do that. But if you want to join in and play, the events will be open for registration probably relatively soon. I don't know the exact time or date when that's going to go down, but it's going to be soon. So keep your eyes out on that. So you got to make sure you're following all of the GaryCon social media platforms so you don't miss out on any of the news coming out for the upcoming event. And I'm literally running all these Epic Encounter box sets, so you can join. There's going to be six seats available at every table, and I'm running 6 sessions for attendees. So if you want to be Ryan through one of these by me, please check it out when it pops out. Would love to have you. I promise I won't kill anybody in the first half hour.
You all heard.
There's actually something even more special about that. So if you are a player in one of my events, we're going to do a little voting at the end of every session, and someone at the table will win a copy of the Epic Encounter they play in. And Steamforge I'll get your information, and Steamforge will send it off to you. So I bet y'all didn't know that.
Mr. Gygax himself says, he said, for one, he says, man, that looks great. Up next is Thorkenai. There you go. Thank you. Running Trials of the Flaming Sword, followed by Luke's Lounge at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then bringing us home tonight is Jason Charles Miller running Search for Gaxmore at 6 p.m. Pacific.
All right. That's going to be awesome. Thank you, Luke, for throwing that in there. It is appreciated. It's going to be a blast. And like I said, Thorkenai is an amazing dungeon master, so you're not gonna be missing out on anything if you see it. You're gonna actually learn some fun stuff. He is a great dungeon master. I actually don't know any of his players, but Jason Charles Miller, I do know some of his players, and for the search for Gaxmore, and that is and should be extremely entertaining this evening. So make sure you're on par for all that. And then next Saturday we'll be back with another episode of the Epic Encounter Paint session with me. It'll be it'll either be the Red Dragon or the Storm or the Frost Giant. I'm not sure yet. The Red Dragon, I may have to do some preemptive stuff because it is humongous. It's huge. So I might have to, like, after priming it, I may have to do some prep work on it with some base and then come back to it. And when we get on here, I'll be doing more detailed stuff. The Frost Giant is also huge. It's way bigger than this Hydra. So either one. And then the third Saturday leading in will be the whichever one I didn't do next weekend. And then in between, if you want to check out the painting I'll be doing on the minions, so the orcs, the kobolds, and the goblins, you can check that out on my personal channel at Tabletop Santa here on TikTok or here on Twitch. And you can see the results of everything on TikTok as well on the Gary Con channel and on my personal channel, Gary Con Official. So if you're not on TikTok, get on there. It's fun.
Corey, because I know you've said it several times, is asking if you're painting Tiamat or Hydra. Corey, I know it is a Hydra from one of the Epic Encounters boxes, but I will let the expert here explain that more.
Yeah, it absolutely is the Hydra from the Swamp of the Hydra Epic Encounter box, which is a 5th edition compatible game in a box or session in a box by Steamforged Games. And you can get it at your friendly local game store or online wherever Steamforged games are sold. And yeah, it comes unpainted, so it definitely gives you an opportunity to paint an amazing sculpt, as Steamforged is known for their amazing sculpts across every genre. And this is, of course, no different. And it is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-headed Hydra, which is ridiculous. And so yeah, there you have it. Thanks for asking, though. As far as like who actually sculpted the mini, that's a great question. And what's funny is one of the things I love about Steamforged is they really give really good credit to the people that they work with in their books and such. So let's take a look. They actually might have it in. So this is what the little guidebook that sets the adventure up looks like. But like I said, they usually give a really good breakdown of everybody that participated in the creation of their products. Okay, here we go. The sculpt for the Hydra is Ben Charles, Russ Charles, Tom Lishman, and Holly Wolford were the ones behind the sculpting of the model. Yeah, so those 4 were all involved in that, which is awesome. So there you have it. That's a great question, by the way. Thanks for asking. What was that?
I said a bang up job for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So there's that. I'm just kind of like looking at, like, one of the things I have to do next on this one is going to be the wash, which is going to, again, make the ink go inside the cracks and crevices to give it more definition and pop. I'm obviously not going to be able to finish this in the next 9 minutes. So
speed paint test, go.
All right. Oh yeah. So what I would say is keep your eye out to see the finished model on the social media platforms that are out there. I can probably put it up on Twitter and obviously on the TikTok Gary Con channel and also my own personal channel. So when it's all said and done, I'll post images up there for the completed look for everybody to go and critique. And if you have any techniques that you'd like to see in upcoming events, let me know. That'd be great. Just want to see, we got Kyle Newman is the director. He did Fanboys and directed some Taylor Swift and Lana Del Rey videos. Sweet. Kyle Newman is, I believe, also one of the individuals behind the Art and Arcana book with Michael Whitwer and Sam Whitwer and I can't remember everybody that was involved, but I think Kyle, if I remember, it was one of the individuals involved in that as well, which is super cool. Speed paint class. Oh, a speed painting class. What's my Twitter? So Gary Con has her own Twitter, so you should follow Gary Con's Twitter. My personal Twitter and all of my social media platforms are Tabletop Santa. Never think you have to rush to finish a Minucci. It's never a race. Yeah, you don't have to rush to finish it unless you're in a speed paint competition, which I love speed paint competitions. JCM has a great cast too. Vivica, B. Dave Walters, awesome. Adriana, yep. Eric Campbell and Aribra Ayengar. I hope I didn't smash that. John Peterson, Kyle, and Mike and Sam. Yeah. The only person of those individuals involved in the Art and Arcana that I haven't gotten to sign my copy of it is Sam.
Same.
Is hard. So yeah.
Same. I managed to get the last physical Gary Con. I managed to get that book absolutely loaded with signatures. It was great.
It's so good. I do have the blessing of while I was working at Diamond Alliance, Penguin Random House, who I believe is the publisher behind it, when they go around to promote a product that they're going to do, they go to all the trade shows, and I would be at all the trade shows. And they sent me the Art and Arcana prototype, which was the same size of the regular book, right, with all the pages in it, but it didn't have any artwork on the pages. Only the first 30 pages had what you would likely find inside the book. The rest of the pages are blank. And it has a wraparound, like glued on sticker like cover of what the cover was going to look like. And so now what I do is I take that book around to conventions and I get artists that have worked in Dungeons and Dragons or who I think have a really good art style, and they draw. I give them a page and I say, hey, whatever, what does it cost? Cool. Yeah, let's do this. So my very first one I got in it was, of course, Larry Elmore. And he did his classic wizard like profile. I was like, wow, so good. And then I got a Brahm piece in there, a Lockwood piece of a dragon that he did. He drew a dragon in it at Dragon Con. It's such a, I know that my kids are going to flip when they get it, years down the road, years and years down the road.
Right.
All right. So we're in our final 5, I think, here. So
yes, sir.
What's that?
I said, yes, sir.
All right. So just one last time, just to let everybody know, thank you so much for joining us today here for the painting sessions featuring the Epic Encounters box Swamp of the Hydra today. Brought to us by Steamforged Games, which is one of the sponsors of Gary Con this year. Thank you to Luke for giving me an opportunity to come on here and paint and chat with you all. Next week, like I said, it'll either be the Red Dragon or the Frost Giant. If you want to let us know on social media which one you prefer, or in Discord, which one you'd like to see me paint next weekend, that would be great. Go follow all the social media platforms that are Gary Con. You can find me on all the social media platforms as Tabletop Santa. If you just type it in, you'll find me. And I'd love to have you come and you can harass me on any topic you'd like. And so stay tuned for the next event, which is Trials of the Flaming Sword, featuring Thor Kanai and his team of rambunctious adventurers, which should be a good time. And then again, Luke's Lounge at 5, I think he said, right? 5 p.m.?
5 p.m. Pacific, and then Jason Charles Miller's game at 6 p.m. Pacific.
Search for Gaxmore. So again, thank you, everybody, and we will see you next Saturday. Same time, same bat place, and it'll be a blast. And again, thank you to our producer. Let them know who you are in the back in the shadows, the voice of God.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'll take any compliment I can get. I am Jeff, here in the Twitchverse known as King Bashman. You've probably seen me saying things in chat and communicating with other people. It's a pleasure. I was asked to help out with this, and I didn't even think twice. So.
No, absolutely, and thank you so much for putting it all together. It's really awesome when a team comes together to make some really fun stuff happen. And we're gonna go ahead and sign out because it's that time, right? Give them a few minutes break before the next amazing thing. So go use the restroom, drink some water, maybe even have a snack, and come back and watch Trials of the Flaming Sword.
Right. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you at the next event.